Excellent. Welcome everyone to the annual meeting of the members. I will do formal introductions in a moment, but would like to welcome the Dana board, the Dana staff, and our members to the 2022 annual meetings. Just some administration. Kindly mute your phone or microphone while others are speaking to make sure we all have the best opportunity to hear the presenters. There is a chat feature at the bottom that will allow for questions that we will have on the agenda at the end of the meeting. And just to go through quickly the agenda, I will call this to order now. Welcome everyone. We will do the election of the results for the Board of Directors of Dana, some recognition of board members and staff members and departures. We'll spend some time on the 2021 financial results, along with mission successes, and then an update on our legislative session for this year, followed by a strategic plan update along with upcoming initiatives, followed by some questions. I think, Melissa, you're going to post the annual report in the link for those that would like to have access to that. I would encourage everyone to spend some time through the link. It is an outstanding report put together by and in partnership with Hook PR. It's incredibly interactive, incredibly well done and engaging, and incredibly informative. So please take some time to review the materials in the report. So with that, we will first pass this on to Joanne Riley for election results.
Hold on a second. There you go.
Thank you, Dominic. I want to say hello to everyone, and thanks for everyone to, like Dominic said, take some time off out of a sunny day to join us. I'd also like to thank everyone who voted, took the time to vote for our slate of new board members. And I'm pleased to announce that we do have two new board members. Kathleen Hawkins and Kevin Gilmore. We're more than pleased to have both of them. Their breadth of experience, and they give us some, we now represent more representation from Kent and Sussex County. That's always a challenge to make sure we balance our location. We try to do that. These two will help the board achieve that. So congratulations to both of them. I see Kathleen. Is Kevin on?
I'm here.
Congratulations. I'm thrilled. I was lucky enough to have a nice conversation with both of you, and we're very happy to have you on the board. I know you're going to bring a lot of good things and good advice to all of us. That's what we depend on. So thank you for stepping up. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And on the same slate, we also, the members overwhelmingly agreed to have Dominic Canuso, Jennifer Cho, and Faye Blake serve a second term. So our service normally consists of 2 3-year terms. So these three will stay with us for 3 more years, and we're very happy about that. We appreciate their past service and looking forward to 3 more years with them. That's it as far as the election. I do want to let you know that Sheila and I had a conversation this week, and there will be several board members rolling off next year. They will have completed their service. So just be assured that we will be searching for some more competent, engaged members over the next year, so that we'll immediately have someone to fill in. There'll be no gaps. We'll do our best. Well, back to you, Dominic.
Thanks, Joanne, and thanks for your leadership on governance. Your experience in connectivity ensures what I believe to be one of the best boards out there, highly engaged. And again, want to welcome Kathleen and Kevin, bringing their experience and engagement to an incredible board that meets regularly and brings together tremendous perspectives, insights, and talents. And with that, I would like to thank the 2021 slate of board of directors. If we can go to the next slide. Patty Grimes as vice chair, Vicki Young Beam as treasurer, always keeps everything counted to the penny and keeps us in line. Charles Vincent as secretary, making sure we all know what's going on, along with Faye Blake, Jennifer Cho, Patricia Daly Lewis, Guillermina Gonzalez, Lisa Lucchese, Vita Pickram, Joanne Riley, Tom Sheridan, Mary Van Veen, and Bob Winfrey. Thank you all for your partnership, your time, your commitment, and most importantly, your support of Dana and the Delaware community. And a special thanks, if we could go to the next slide, to Patty Daly Lewis, who has ended her tenure with us at Dana. Tremendous experience and insights. My understanding is she has received our thank you bouquet at home, and it's a small token of what we could do to recognize your contributions and partnership over the years. So a virtual round of applause for Patty. So thank you again. And on the next slide, would like to thank the Dana team members. It's a short list, but a mighty team. As a board member, it is unbelievable how packed our agendas are, given that this group is working 24/7 to improve the sector and drive opportunities for the communities together, including Sheila Bravo, President and CEO. Thank you for all your leadership again. Melissa Hopkins, EVP of Sector Advancement, Mel Carney, EA, Pamela Leland, EVP of Nonprofit Support Programs, Daniel Davis, Engagement Manager, Angela McDermott, Project Manager, Tony Ferlanda, Senior Consultant and SFX Liaison, Leslie Poland, Communications Manager, and Jalicia Haynes as Public Policy and Advocacy Managers. While there are titles there, I think everyone is a jack of all trades and covers all aspects and working together. So a huge virtual round of applause and thanks for the commitment, support, and leadership of the Dana team members. So with that, I will pass it on to Vicki for the financial results.
All right, it's good to see you all and know that the other people that I can't see are also taking the time out to hear some of this important information and to understand just the huge part that Dana has played during the calendar year 2021 and is continuing to do that in 2022. And what we see here in front of us is a lot of numbers and a lot of good direction as far as year over year performance and assets held. Let me start with the assets at the top of the right there. The assets of 1.2 million has 1.1 of that is held in cash. Well, it was at the end of December. That's not where we are at this moment. And some of that is related to the grants and donations that we'll talk about later that came in for 2 years. So well, I won't spill the beans yet. I'll talk about that in a minute. In addition, we have a pretty sizable receivable that I just want to call out for the employee retention tax credit. Dana was able to take advantage of some of the government programs that came out in support of nonprofits and others as part of the pandemic response. So we just received notice today, or I just saw copies of the checks that we did in fact receive the amounts that we had filed for the employee retention tax credit. So that's an awesome thing. We weren't expecting that money probably until late in the fall because the IRS has been busy doing other things. But that's a big success story there. The liabilities includes a portion, about 85,000 of that is deferred revenue, which means we had contracts to do some services, but they weren't completed yet by the end of December. So those will be carried forward and completed in 2022. Those are ones we have signed contracts to perform services and are obligated to follow those through. But we want to recognize the revenue when the services are performed. Let's talk about the revenue. So $2 million in revenue is is a huge up from the prior year. And here's why. We received a very, very generous grant from a donor supporter foundation that covers certain projects and initiatives that are taking place over at least 2 years, 2.5 years perhaps, or 3 years, 2.5 years. So given that, some of those funds were spent during 2021, but we're carrying much of that cash forward to be used in 2022 and maybe a little bit left for 2023. So that has been a very successful launch of some of these programs that are somewhat in response to the COVID pandemic, but also just greater initiatives to service you, our community. And to give you training in the areas where it's needed. Included in that is DEI work that, is kind of the catchphrase now. There's been a lot of emphasis on that, and I think it's really important. So some of that is encapsulated in that revenue as well. Our program revenue is up about $300,000 from last year, $250,000 from last year. There's been a significant expansion of, the Excellence Academy. It's been very popular. We've been able to respond to a number of requests to do further training. And now that COVID's over, I think that, well, I say that, now that we hope COVID is over, there's been a kind of a resurgence, especially toward the latter part of 2021, and doing in-person training. Also included in that is some work in the DEI space and providing additional programming over and above what we had done in prior years. In the prior year, the membership revenue was about $110,000. So it's great to see you all increasing. And it's nice to know that the outreach of Dana is able to help more and expand the influence. Expenses, I won't say a whole lot here, but obviously as the revenue has grown and the programs have expanded, so have the expenses, mostly related to the programs, additional salaries that are there, as well as the consultants for the Excellence Academy. So we're just so pleased to be in a good position to go into 2022, and we're halfway through now. So it's been, 2021 was a banner year in a number of things, not only financially, but the vision and the strategy that accompanied those asks, the proposals that went in, just really reflects the vision of Dana's leaders. So congratulations to you all. I'm going to turn it over to Sheila, and she's going to talk to you about some of these mission successes that I kind of alluded to.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Vicki. And again, I want to thank you and the Finance Committee for your leadership and support. Managing our cash flow for the past 2 years has certainly been something that we've been very attentive to, and I really appreciate your leadership and also your help in securing those employee tax retention credits. So thank you again for that. That was a nice surprise when we opened the mail today. One of the things I wanted to share is this is snapshots from the annual report. And as a reminder, Melissa put into the chat box our digital annual report. There is a PDF version. So if you do want to download the annual report details, you can certainly do that as well. But overall, what we are continuing to see is growth in those who are engaging with Dana, which I think is a sign to our continued desire to evolve our services to meet the needs of the Delaware nonprofit sector. And so you see we've had growth not only in the number of members, but also, as Vicki alluded to, our consulting work increased considerably in 2021. A lot of it around strategic plans, as nonprofits were recognizing they had to rethink their go-to-market strategy. Another thing that happened in 2021, which we've carried into 2022, is we launched a communities of practice, and we had tremendous response for that, and that led to a lot of growth in those who participated in our learning activities. In 21, we were also still supporting nonprofits and getting access to federal grant money, and 93 nonprofits were able to submit applications either through the CARES Act program or some other COVID-related support programs so that they could continue to advance their mission. And we're really proud of that work. And it's what led to us starting our grant concierge service, which is to help those nonprofits that might need a little help looking at their grants before they submit as a service to our members. We're still, we do our best to get feedback from those we serve through our workshops and through our consulting. And pleased to continue to receive good scores. We know we'll never be perfect, but it is important to get that feedback. And for those members who have engaged with us, we really do appreciate the feedback that you've given us, the constructive areas that we can improve, but also the great work that our consulting partners and staff have been doing. I did want to share with you a little bit behind the scenes on our membership. When our membership continues to grow, and I've expanded the word membership now to really look at the total alliance, which not only includes not-for-profit organizations, but those businesses, individuals, and foundations that really believe in our mission and want to be part of the alliance. And so we've continued to see that growth, nearly 500 as we ended 2021. But I thought it was also interesting to share how that growth is evolving. A couple of years ago, we noticed that our membership was comprised a little bit more heavily with larger, more established nonprofits, and really began an outreach to help those nonprofits before they get established, to help them start on the right foot. And as you look at our growth metrics, you can see that a tremendous amount of growth in our membership has been with those smaller agencies that are looking to expand their capacity, to expand their impact. And we're thrilled that they see Dana as a resource. But as you can also see across the board, engagement with the alliances continue to grow. And a special thank you to board members who are part of our Alliance Engagement Committee that really helped to guide and provide advice to the Dana staff as we look at our outreach and member engagement strategies. A couple of key initiatives to highlight, and again, as Vicki mentioned, 2021 seems like such a long time ago. We hold our annual meeting at this time because it's when we have our final audited numbers. But just wanted to refresh your memory. We certainly continue to provide pandemic relief support in partnership with the Delaware Community Foundation, Philanthropy Delaware, and the United Way of Delaware. We also had additional, as I mentioned, consulting and training services. And then we launched some new services in response to the way the market was. We did not hold a conference in 2021. So we launched the communities of practice, 5 different affinity groups that allowed nonprofit members and their staff to engage across a different array of dimensions, from marketing communications and fundraising to support for executive directors, public policy, and of course, diversity, equity, inclusion. We also did have some new initiatives in partnership with the United Way. We launched board conversations, which is an opportunity for board members to speak to board members about ways in which they are increasing their diversity on their boards, but also thinking about equity and inclusion. And in fact, that carried into 2022 in partnership. The new YWCA joined us in partnership, and we're hoping to continue this in the future because we hear such positive feedback from those who participate. As Vicki mentioned, thanks in large part to support from Barclays Foundation, we were able to invest more in providing no cost or almost zero cost services to nonprofits who are wishing to expand their diversity, equity, inclusion, evaluate their culture. So we developed some new training programs, also established a partnership with the Michigan Nonprofit Association to bring an assessment tool to help nonprofit boards and leaders to understand kind of where they are in implementing wise practices around diversity, equity, inclusion, and expanded our services in the consulting and coaching area. And I'm really thrilled with some of the new consultants that have joined the team to help support our nonprofit members that are interested in expanding their diversity and evaluating their internal cultures. So I do want to thank our program partners as an alliance. We certainly don't do it by ourselves. And as Dominic mentioned at the beginning, Dominic, it gets confusing sometimes. We have a lot of partners that we want to thank. And so this may not be complete, but we do want to thank those who not only developed the programs with us, such as the United Way, but also those who helped to financially support the program. So thank you to those of you who are here today. Also want to thank our consulting partners. Several of these partners have been with us since we launched our consulting practice way back when in 2013. And then we have some new folks that have joined us to help to expand the offerings that we bring. And I'm really thrilled that thanks to grant funding and our alliance partnerships, we're able to provide our consulting services at a lower rate than what they may need to pay out in the marketplace. So it's a member benefit. And I also would say that we are continuing to add to our consulting pool. In fact, tomorrow we are having a little mini summit with our consulting partners, of which there are several new folks that have joined us this year. Also, we would not exist if it were not for our members. And I do want to thank all of our members who have been part of the Alliance in 2021 and into 22. And also want to just give a shout out and a thank you to Shanae Darby and Rob McCreary and Scott Swingle, who provided some more perspective through their video testimonials in the annual report on the work that they do and how we've been able to help support them. I mean, at the end of the day, the work that Dana does is really to help you, our members, be as impactful as possible, to be resilient and to thrive. And so please take a moment to listen to their stories, to learn more about their organizations. They're doing incredible work in the communities that they serve, and really, really thankful that they agreed to share their story with all of you. And of course, we continue to remain grateful to the ongoing support of our alliance partners. Many of these organizations believe that we need to have a thriving and inclusive Delaware nonprofit sector, and their support of us allows us to amplify our work across the entire sector. So again, a big shout out and thank you to our alliance partners. As you know, we provide a variety of services to help individual nonprofits, but a lot of our work is really to create conditions across the sector. And so with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Melissa Hopkins, who can give you a reflection. And I know technically this is about our annual meeting, but given that legislative session just ended, we wanted just to give you a snapshot of what's happening on the public policy landscape. Melissa?
Yes, thank you for the time. Good afternoon, everyone. So excited to see so many of you here today. Do you mind pushing the slide forward, Sheila? Sheila, can you push the slide forward?
Oh, sorry, Melissa. There we go.
Okay, so this year we added some great support to work on our public policy initiatives. So those of you who have participated on our public policy committee of the board and have participated in our public policy community of practice, you have really contributed greatly into the items that we were able to push forward this year. So starting at the beginning, our policy priorities were really about helping the nonprofit sector to receive equitable contracted funds for the services that they're providing, and to get additional support from the state to address some of the workforce shortage issues. So being able to provide more dollars into contracted service rates and we pursued an opportunity for nonprofit organizations who are contracted service providers or grant and aid recipients to receive healthcare. So we did not achieve our healthcare goal this year, but we do have a commitment from a legislator in 2023 to run that bill to allow nonprofits to access healthcare through the state. My understanding is there's a difficulty hearing me.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Not really sure how to address that.
Maybe just speak a little closer to your.
Okay,
computer.
is that better?
Yes.
Much better.
Excellent.
Mm.
Okay, so we worked on accessing healthcare for nonprofits this year. We have not gotten that done, but we have a commitment from a legislator to work on it and pass legislation in the beginning of legislative session in 2023. So we're excited to engage in that activity. We also requested additional dollars in the grant and aid bill, which we did see for some organizations, but not across the board. And we'll get into that a little bit later. And then we requested an increase in contracted rates by the rate of the minimum wage increase, which was 13.5%. So we have not achieved that yet, but we will continue with your support, that advocacy for improved contracted rates. Sheila, if you could move forward. So getting into the operating budget, a lot of what was in the general operating budget and the one-time supplement this year did not really serve nonprofits. However, one big win for the nonprofit sector was that the McNesby Act, which is dollars that support services for developmental disabilities, direct support professionals, was funded at the full amount, which is still a 2019 rate. But this is a move forward in terms of creating precedent for increasing contracted rates for nonprofits. So this is a win, though a small one. In addition, those of you who were playing along at home and following the progression for a paid leave and medical leave insurance program sponsored by Sarah McBride did pass early in legislative session, and the funding to implement that was set aside in a one-time supplement bill. So we will see regulations start to come out in the next year that will really create the boundaries of that program, and then we'll be able to help organizations that are members of Dana to understand the implications for their operations. And then the Delaware Earns program, which is a retirement program run through the state treasurer's office, did pass and get funded. And so should your organization not provide a retirement program, this is an opportunity for individuals to contribute to a state retirement plan. So Sheila, could you move to the next slide? Great. So the grant and aid and bond bill, we did see some moderate increases in the grant and aid bill. I will say that one thing to note, can you just populate all the bullets? Thanks. One thing to note is that just a process perspective is that the budget bill is completed a couple weeks prior to legislative session being done. So what we find is that legislators will put funding for initiatives in the grant and aid bill. So grant and aid is very rarely just for nonprofits and municipalities. So we did see a $6 million increase, but a lot of those dollars that were included in the grant and aid bill funded programming for government. So just something to bear in mind. We did see some increases for nonprofits, though it was highly individualized. And so there were no across the board increases, with the exception of fire companies received an additional $100,000 per agency for their operations and a 3% increase across the board. And then you can see that a sizable allocation was made for some of these government programs. Additionally, the bond bill, which there are dollars in bonds that for capital expenses for some nonprofits, and I know a number of you have had the experience of applying. Last year, the Community Redevelopment Fund it came sort of out of the trenches where it hadn't been used in quite some time, and funding was put into the bond bill at the very last minute. So $70 million to projects that legislators recommended. This year, they improved the transparency of that process and had an application for nonprofits and community organizations to reach out and really request their funds with an understanding of what they'd be used for. So $90 million was allocated to various nonprofit and community development organizations throughout the state. So this is the largest amount of funding that has really been dedicated to our sector in quite some time. Could you move forward? And then you can find the full list of agencies that were funded on the legislative website. So, great, so federal policy. Sheila and I got the opportunity to meet with our federal delegation early in June in conjunction with our partners at the National Council of Nonprofits. As you know, Sheila and I can't be everywhere, so we have to partner in order to really ensure that the interests of our sector are being met. There are 4 main initiatives that we are working with the National Council of Nonprofits and our federal delegation on. And I will say that our federal delegation has been very supportive of the nonprofit sector and wants to help. So the first is around charitable giving incentives. Some of you may remember that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from a couple of years ago really made cuts to the opportunities for taking an exemption for charitable giving unless it was over a certain amount. Most people started taking the standard deduction. So during COVID, that was really rolled back for a limited amount of time. And so while our while our organizations, are really the services that are needed are still outpacing the funding opportunities. And so really this is about continuing those incentives for charitable giving. And they ended at the end of 2021, and we're really looking for them to be restored so that all of you have more of an opportunity with your fundraising for your funders to be able to take opportunities, both individuals and organizations. The employee tax credit, I think we referenced that earlier. That was a limited amount of time and is typically utilized in times of crisis, but we are in a workforce crisis right now. So we are talking to our federal delegation about really reinstating that employee tax credit so that our organizations can really continue to hire, and it's just funding in our pocket for that. Many of you have talked to me about volunteer mileage relief. So this is an issue both at the federal and the state level. At the federal level, the volunteer rate for mileage is far lower than the business rate for mileage. So what we're looking for is, in order to increase volunteers returning to our organizations to help provide critical services, is being able to give them an incentive to do that. And much of what is deterring volunteers is gas prices right now, particularly those that are delivering meals or providing access to transportation for health services on a volunteer basis. So this would increase the volunteer mileage rate to the same rate as that of businesses. And then the Nonprofit Sector Strength and Partnership Act is very exciting. This is really around really thinking about how the federal government engages with nonprofits. And right now, there are a myriad of different agencies that engage with nonprofits or have some role in how they work together. This would create an office in the president's office to really just focus on the needs of the nonprofit sector. And so we're really hopeful that this will move along. I also think that there's an opportunity, if established at the federal level, to really make the case for establishing it at the state level. So thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Melissa. In the interest of time, I want to move us forward, but really just want to again express my thanks for the great work that you're doing. JL joined the public policy team earlier this year, and we also want to thank the Bird Gomes Group, who has been working with Melissa and JL here in Delaware to keep us informed and to advise us on some of those legislative opportunities that Melissa mentioned. We promised to share a little insight into the recent Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Nonprofit Board and Leadership Survey that we conducted earlier this year. And so I'm going to give a quick highlights, but I do want to make sure we have time not only to share some things that we're doing going forward, but also to allow time for questions and answers. This survey was generously underwritten by Barclays Bank, and I think I saw Jen Cho join the call. So again, thank you, Jen, for your support in this work. And it was really intended to better understand kind of what is the current landscape of the boards of directors, but we expanded it this year to look at what is the diversity profile of the leadership within nonprofits. And this is really under the insights that, when we think about the resources and the direction and strategies to allocate resources, are those decisions being informed by individuals who are beneficiaries or who have those lived experiences that can ensure that those decisions will have the impact that they hope to? And so this was intended to do a combination of checking in to see where the diversity is today relative to the study we did back in 2014 in partnership with Trustees of Color, but also to see if there are some areas of opportunity that we may want to collectively look at for our state. So one of the first questions that we asked is, does the board reflect the community the nonprofit serves? And we definitely saw, for those who responded to the survey this year, a marked improvement in perception. And I do want to say that when we talk about reflection of the community, there are many different characteristics that can come into play, from whether or not it's by race or by gender, but it also can be by experience. It can be by the mission area that a nonprofit serves. So we recognize that that's a very broad definition, but we did want to hone in on a really important aspect of diversity, and that's around race and ethnicity, because we know that there are barriers that have been put in place systematically across our society that have created situations where Black and Brown individuals don't have the same kind of access. And certainly there's been concerns in the nonprofit sector that often they are not represented at the levels they should be in the leadership of nonprofit boards. So how have things changed? Well, first, where are we today as it relates to representation of different racial and ethnic groups on nonprofit boards? And again, I want to state that this is for those people who participated in the survey. We actually see that there is some closeness. We have some room to go as it relates to African-American representation, and particularly as it relates to having individuals of Hispanic and Latin descent. And so in the overall snapshot, we see that there's definitely been some progress made if you look at how it compares to 2014. But we definitely want to see some continued improvement in a variety of different areas. Because we're going to be launching a report, I encourage you to read the report when it comes out, because we'll be spelling more of those opportunities out. But I did want to highlight a couple of areas that we saw that were considerably different in the survey results in 2022 versus 2014. An improvement in African-American board directors, though again, some opportunity for continuing that trend. Unfortunately, we also saw a reduction in Hispanic board directors. So we're actually in conversation with some folks who have been helping to give us some perspective behind that. So more to come. And interestingly, we saw a flip as it relates to gender identity, and that there are more women now serving on boards relative to the earlier study. So the survey is actually looking at a variety of different characteristics and also looking across the different dimensions of leadership that I mentioned. And so the full report will be coming out shortly, but wanted to give you that sneak peek. The other thing that I did want to highlight is that we asked the survey respondents to give us some insights on some of the activities that they have been working on towards diversifying and creating more inclusive and equitable cultures. And it was really interesting. We also asked them, for how long have you been doing this work? And I guess this is a testimony to show that really hard work does pay off, at least as it relates to diversity of board and leadership. And that we saw that organizations that have indicated they have been focusing on improving their DEI practices for 5 or more years, we saw a more diverse board as well as more diverse executives. So for those organizations who believe that board diversity and leadership is important, and you're just starting out, know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and please know that we have resources to help you with that. So I want to move on to our future intent. In late 2021 and into 2022, the board of director and staff met to review our strategic plan and to evaluate in what ways we wanted to modify it based upon the way the world is today. And we recognize that a 5-year strategic intent may be a little too lofty in this highly volatile time, but when we look at our impact, a lot of times Dana's impact takes several years to really realize. One of the changes that you may notice is that our vision statement has changed. And we see our vision is that the nonprofit sector is empowered to achieve an inclusive, thriving, and vibrant community. And our 3 strategies remain consistent to strengthen, enhance, and advance nonprofits, but we have refined them a little bit more, again, in light of the current climate. So, looking at having a stronger and more diverse nonprofit leadership capacity to help support nonprofits and their resiliency and sustainability, and to strategically promote and influence conditions for a healthy nonprofit sector. And so over the course of the next several years, we will continue to do the work that we're doing in these desired areas. And our member survey that we send out, which there'll be one coming out this year, helps us kind of measure the progress that we're making towards these outcomes. So looking ahead, we are soon to launch a new website, and I'm really excited about it. One of the things that we definitely learned during the pandemic is that our members often need services, not necessarily between 9 to 5. And so our website will be designed to be a resource hub that you'll be able to go in and pull information, whether it's to sign up for a workshop or to actually pull down templates and tools that you need. We also have expanded our on-demand learning opportunities in partnership with MindEdge. So for those of you who have staff that are looking to expand their project management skills or HR practices, we've got a whole host of new training opportunities that they can access at their time and at their pace. In September, we are holding our board chair and CEO leadership series. For those of you who've participated in the past, you know this is an excellent opportunity for incoming board chairs or new executives to work in partnership with their partner to help advance their organization. And Melissa, if you can, we have a link to a form that you can fill out. So if you're interested, we can share with you, because we do have scholarship money available to help with the registration fee. We also are bringing on some additional consultants and instructors in a variety of different areas. And again, with the intention that we'd like our consultants and instructors to be reflective of the Delaware nonprofit community. And that means diversifying us not only by our skill sets, but also by our demographic profiles as well. We also are continuing to expand services to support the diverse needs of our Dana members. As you saw early on, our membership ranges from those that are nonprofits that are just emerging to well-established large health and human service agencies. And we want to make sure that we are providing the needs for those different organizations across the sector. We're thrilled with our continued partnership with Philanthropy Delaware. Share Delaware was launched, a new platform was launched earlier this year with Policy Map, and we have a comprehensive state of the sector that's coming out later this year, as well as some additional research and policy initiatives that will start towards the end of the year and into 2023. And just as a little teaser, we really feel that we hope that by 2023, we will be comfortable to come back together with an impact conference. So stay tuned, more to come in the next few weeks as we finalize that information. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to you, Dominic, to answer any questions that may come from the membership.
Sure. Thanks, Sheila and the entire team for that overview. Incredibly comprehensive, tremendous progress. I think about the quotes, success is when opportunity meets preparedness, and it's hard to have known what would have occurred over the last few years, but it definitely presented challenges and therefore opportunities, and Dana was prepared. Hopefully our members feel that way at the board level. We saw it every day, and thank you for that. And just to tie the last two topics together, just recognizing the importance of DE&I at the board level and ensuring that we have a comprehensive view of the sector was key in our dialogue around our mission, vision, and values in the updates this year for the next 3 years. That was not taken lightly, and the board spent tremendous amount of time with the team in a comprehensive bottoms-up overview, and again recognizing that there were a lot of voices we wanted to make sure were included in setting the direction. So thank you again to the team and the board for taking that approach. So with that, happy to open up to questions. I think we have some good time. I don't know if we want to do it through the chat box. Is that? Sheila?
Yes, if
Melissa?
folks could just provide their questions in the chat box, that would be great. So far, Dominic, no questions. We were that thorough.
That's what I thought. And again, if there are any questions that you feel more comfortable offline, don't hesitate to reach out to the board or Sheila or Melissa. Happy to have conversations. But if there are any questions for the greater good, happy to take the time while we're here today.
Okay, Dominic, first question. Do you have the number of nonprofits that were funded? Jacqueline, could you be more specific with your question through grant and aid? Jacqueline, why don't I follow up with you on that question? Okay. I don't know offhand, or I would answer it, but I can absolutely follow up with you. So Dominic, sorry, this is me again. The question was about updating folks on a request that we made to Senator Coon's office for an earmark. And Sheila, I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. Dana is working on a new initiative to create a nonprofit business accelerator. And in order to do that, we would like to be able to cover the majority of the costs for the program for participants through a 3-year runway of the program. So we have made an initial request for startup dollars through Senator Coon's office. They are excited about the request, and it is currently moving through the federal appropriations process. So we certainly will announce that program once we're sure that we have funding for it in more detail. But Sheila, is there anything you'd like to add on that front?
I would just say that in my mind, this is really equivalent to what the business community has access to when it comes to investing in small business startups. There's not really that type of investment mechanism for nonprofits. And this is really what we're trying to do. And Melissa is also very active in pursuing not just this federal level, but we've been in conversations both at the state and county level, because we think ultimately by investing in building nonprofit capacity, it's going to not only create more jobs, but as we all know, it creates not only economic impact, but social impact, which is what we all really care about in our local communities. So stay tuned. As Melissa said, it's one of these initiatives that we need to be funded before we can get it started. So we're looking forward to optimistically that we can share the news in the near future.
Other questions from folks? Thank you, Raina, for the compliment about the work of Dana during the pandemic. We appreciate your feedback.
Well, I guess if no more questions, I'll take a motion to adjourn the annual meeting. If I see any hands up, I'll take one or two.
I'm sorry, there is a question, Dominic, about the Delaware Earns program. This program, they just received the funding for the startup costs. I can certainly follow up with you on the start date, Jacqueline, but they're going to give organizations a runway to implement, and the state treasurer's office will be working with businesses and nonprofits to create the payroll deduction process for that. Sorry, Dominic, back to your motion.
No, thank you for the question. Want to make sure we get all of them in. Okay. Well, if there are no more, I'll ask for a motion again. See any board members' hands? Happy to take a first and a second. I see first and second. Well, with that, thank you everyone for your time today. Again, recommend spending time with the report through the link. Excellent videos, excellent materials. So please spend that time. And thank you for continued partnership support. Enjoy these summer months, particularly these really nice summer days, and look forward to seeing you and interacting with all of you in the near future.
Great.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.